Okay. Okay. How's the fluff here?
Never better.
And how's my hair?
I'd give you 2 thumbs up, but this one's occupied.
All right.
One thumb and a, I don't even know what to call it. That's all I know about.
Ball of.
But by the way, how is the volume? Is it doing pretty easy? Yeah.
I don't really know.
Well, your voice just now.
Yeah.
Way too quiet.
Way too quiet. Okay.
Back there was great.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah, like the way you're talking now.
Okay, I
that
see.
would be the kind of the place to plateau it if you can.
The louder the better, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Oh, I mean.
all right. So let's go.
And framing.
Frame looks good.
Framing's good.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I think I'll tell you a little bit about Walt more in depth. As I said, he was a roly-poly man. I'm going to find some photos to bring.
That'd be great.
So we can have an idea of what the man looked like. And beatific, smile all the time. Always kind whenever we were engaged with him. Had a particular penchant for zeroing right in on what he thought would be helpful to you. And one of his slogans that he repeated often to most of the students was, do your best. Let the angels do the rest. And it was something that has always stayed with me and helped me in endeavors. The idea of giving my all and then giving it up to the powers that be to make it perfect or make it right. So he was full of little homilies, little phrases, little pickup phrases that would help you. If he saw you lifting weights, he would come over and assist if he saw that the form was not good. But never scolded. Just, hey Josh, you may want to move on to that. Oh, much better.
Yeah, yeah.
You got the message.
Really attentive to detail.
Attentive about so that was, I think, of understanding the spiritual path. He never wanted to force anything. He always wanted it to happen naturally. And he would nudge you in positions so you might see the path or you might understand better what was required or what was necessary. Very helpful. And with the food, he introduced things to us like you might find in a very fine restaurant where the maitre d' will come over and explain not only what you're going to eat, but how it's prepared. So he would say, Alex, fox and bear, you are not getting proper. And I want you to take desiccated liver. So no one knew at the time what desiccated liver was.
So he knew a lot about food.
Yeah, he knew a lot about food.
Really,
So we actually started and for our helping our performance, and then he told us to up our C, explaining the value of
Vitamin C?
Yeah, vitamin C. And then he talked about fish oil and how we could get it in a variety of ways, and how nuts are very good for you. Walnuts, almonds, these have a lot of important nutrients, vitamins, and sometimes people don't realize that how good they are. So even today, I will have kind of a little cup full of walnuts, almonds, and peanuts, and that might be sort of grazing food. If I'm home on the table with me and just sort of popping them on, and it becomes part of your life. And he wanted food to be part of your life, and he often said you can eat your junk food once in a while, but 75% of the time, try to mold your life into nutritious food. And again, all the important food groups, minimal meat, lots of green leafy vegetables. And before anybody was writing books about this or making this a cause for people, he was right in the vanguard of all of this.
That's what I find so interesting about it.
Yeah.
Is that...
And you can read about him. Walter Baptiste.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he's on the web and his obituary.
Sure. Yeah, it'd be very interesting.
And Magana also following. Together, they were just unstoppable. When they did parties, she would come on with her dance troupe that she had trained for belly dancing, and they were yoga students as well. So they understood a lot about balance, posture, and movement. And so then they would regale us with the show, and there would be people with Indian instruments, sarod and sitars and things. It was just marvelous. Great parties.
That's really cool.
You wouldn't want to miss the parties. And then, of course, he'd be serving his own food to people. So there'd be a large table full of Indian delicacies and desserts. So you'd eat and then dance and watch the dancers and mingle, and that might go on for a good day, several hours. And he made a point of saying everybody was welcome. If you came in off the street, you got a place to observe and to watch. And he was always open to people bringing children and family members into the parties and into the instruction. You know, hey, Mom, you're doing pretty good with your yoga. How about bringing Johnny and Mary to learn this?
What I find so interesting about this person really is that even if I think you said you met him in the early 70s, was it?
Yes, yes.
So, but
he was already established.
And that's what I'm getting at is that he was doing this long before, let's say, the interest, for lack of a better word, in Indian culture, Indian spirituality. It came with the hippie movement, broadly speaking, and this guy was ahead of the curve.
Sure.
And wasn't doing it when it was cool. Well, let's say he was doing it before it was cool to be doing it.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was, in San Francisco, you might think, I would assume it would be a more permissive environment, but something that Yogananda ran into was this skepticism of anything Eastern because of a prevailing Christian conservatism.
Yes.
That thought of these things, and there are still people who think of yoga as pagan and things like that, and he must have overcome a tremendous amount of cultural inertia.
I think he did. One of the things that gave him more acceptance was the fact that he was Hawaiian, partially Hawaiian, and I think, I'm not sure, perhaps Portuguese. So he had an interesting background in terms of cultures that already knew about him. So when he appeared in San Francisco in the 50s, there was already a coterie of fans, that would follow him maybe from Hawaii or...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then of course the El Salvador thing really got him extremely popular because it was an affordable thing to do. Not so today, but then you could go inexpensively, fly to El Salvador, stay at the complex, and live very, very well, frugally. So I never went. I don't know why. Looking back, I was stupid not to take advantage.
But surely you were just engaged with other things at the time.
Well, yeah. But I mean, when I look back, that's one thing I would have liked to just to see what that was like.
Did anybody you knew go on these retreats?
Yes, many of the students, but unfortunately we've lost touch over the years, especially after his demise.
Yeah.
And then his wife was still in control, but she was, approaching 90, and nobody wanted to really put her through a lot of stress at that age. She was really grieved at the loss of Walt, as you can imagine. And so she was spending time with her children and helping them take over. So things changed, and then I sort of, Bear and I and Francisco kind of just started to go our separate way. We had the foundation, and we were free to roam.
It sounds like he really held things together and held people together.
Yes, for a long time.
Yeah.
A long time. And he put you to work in the restaurant if you didn't have a job. he would put you to work in maintenance or something in the complex because it was an old temple, beautiful place. I don't know who's there now, but down below was the Hungry Mouth. Then there was a dress place or a clothing place for the women, and particularly the dancers would go and get their mirrored outfits to do belly dancing. He had all these wonderful exotic instruments for sale. So there was a lot going on.
And I'm really getting the impression that he offered so many avenues into, let's say, Eastern culture, but not just Eastern culture. This almost science, you could say, or a sort of complete method of, let's say, self-improvement.
Yes.
You know, whether it's dietary, whether it was something like dance or music or yoga or weightlifting, that this is somebody who had a very broad understanding of wellness and even putting someone to work. Because a big part of the yoga tradition is there are really 4 kinds of yoga, because yoga just means to sort of expand your sense of self-identity, and one of them is just to put someone to work. And to give somebody more material responsibilities, because it teaches them sort of stewardship over something. And you have to learn stewardship over yourself if you're going to have stewardship over something else.
Of course.
And so all of it's intertwined. And what you're describing to me is someone who had basically offered all of those paths almost at the same time, and knew who would be suitable for which one. That's really quite something to run into.
Now that you mention it, I'm reminded of this fact. There was a woman there by the name of Barbara. She was really a lovely woman, and when I look back at that, we had sort of a chemistry, and I was sort of already involved with another relationship, and I didn't give myself up to the concept of being with Barbara. And Walt one day saw me and he said, you know, Barbara's waiting for you. That's what he said. And who knows what would have happened had I followed up on that. I guess I didn't feel the commitment as strongly. He never said another word. And she eventually married another student, a very nice guy. Was happy for them. They went to New York. And so maybe it wasn't my path. But we did get along very, very well. When I look back at his wisdom, perhaps that would have been a relationship to consider.
Or it could be. I mean, of course, it's easy for me to be the armchair analyst here. But sometimes, because I do have some experience with people like him, sometimes they can bring something up to you not because you're supposed to pursue it, but because maybe you were, or maybe a person in a situation like that would have been aloof to it. And to give someone more tools of how to pay attention and to be more observant.
Yes, to focus
and not necessarily to go and do the thing, but just, hey, you're really unable to see this. You know, not with prescribing a path, but to say, to kind of give you a nudge to be more perceptive.
And I think that's probably what it was when I look back. And I think that Barbara would have been receptive because I did tell that there was an affinity. And I had the affinity for her because I was already involved in the relationship. And I didn't want to, it's very difficult, looking back, it's very difficult to keep a couple of relationships going at the same time. And to pretend like it's really fair. It really is not fair. I see it clearly now. I think most young people go into relationships thinking that whatever happens is fine, and however many people of the opposite sex I can attract, it's great. But it's not so great if you really are fooling with people's emotions.
And fooling with your own.
And fooling with your own.
Well, because I think the thing that people are seeing that they think they can just take as many as they can get of isn't actually the responsibility and the commitment and the idea of the relationship. It's the idea of the relations.
Right, right.
You know,
Yes.
and
there's
yeah,
an issue of respect.
certainly.
Yeah.
And also the self-awareness to think how much of yourself can you really, how thin can you spread yourself?
Yeah.
And then it is something worth doing if you're doing it in such a diffused way where things are going to reward you to the extent that you invest yourself.
Yes.
These things aren't food.
Right.
You know, this isn't like how many deviled eggs can I eat tonight.
Sure. That's right.
You know, or over a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, this is one thing that's going to yield something to you to the extent that you are giving it that part of yourself exclusively.
It's true.
And not that people come out of the womb knowing that. You've got to learn it through making mistakes.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
That's right. But I think that if I had a child, I would try to suggest that idea, especially, well, it doesn't matter which gender. I would try to suggest that try to limit yourself to one relationship at a time.
Well, you know, and also, I mean, not that we're, I mean, obviously we're getting a little bit off topic. But,
Yeah.
But the idea that I think it's an excusable and in many cases necessary part of, let's say, youthful enthusiasm. And not that those were mistakes necessarily, but how else do you learn?
Yeah.
You try enough things that you realize what does and doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or what might work for someone else but doesn't work for you. And as long as you're learning, and as long as there aren't egregious mistakes made,
that's it.
Then I think it's all for the best.
Yeah, if someone's not grief-stricken by the loss of their relationship, and does something impetuous in their grief.
Right. Evening news level of impetuous, you might mean.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, sure.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Please.
So I would like to know what the guru's sense of humor was like.
Oh.
Is one. And the second question is, were there any times when the two of you butted heads or had some kind of serious disagreement or differing of perspective?
Oh, good questions. Yeah. The first one, he had a very, very good sense of humor and would be primarily trying to help you lighten up. If you were taking things too seriously, whether it was the lifting or yoga or something, he would often come by and make little corrections in a humorous way. You know, like, boy, that looks pretty funny. With a big smile. You know, he said, well, wait a minute, let me show you another way to do that. Gently guide you back. You know, so he was always very respectful, even with his sense of humor. He butted heads with me and the bear and Francisco because we liked to bar hop at that time. We were still enjoying bar hopping, and he said to us collectively one day in the weight room, he said, you know, where you're going is the den of iniquity and the cave of drunkards. Beware.
The den of iniquity and the cave of drunkards.
Yeah. Beware. That was another one of them. And occasionally he would say, watch the alcohol. In other words, go have your fun, but keep a perspective, because he was dealing with a lot of serious alcoholics who were lost and wanted a path to see their way free of the addiction. So that was something he was concerned about. Any addiction to drugs, alcohol, anything, but particularly noticing that a lot of the young students were drinking freely. And again, it's a rite of passage. It's something that all of us maybe want to do. Beware the cave of drunkards and then So I took it to heart, although I did spend some time in that world and learned a lot from that world, I must say. Oh no, are we losing our bearings?
I think we're fine.
Oh, good.
I'm sure this is a pop-up message. I'm trying to read it.
Okay.
The battery is low. So we should move along.
Yeah, okay.
Any more we'd like to say on this topic?
No, I want to save Arnold because we won't have time for Arnold and the show and tell.
Okay, we'll do Arnold next time.
Yes, okay.
Shall we conclude here and then we'll start another one for the next?
Conclude would be great. Yeah, I think this is fine. It was a wonderful opportunity to give you an insight into this wonderful man and his teaching and his wife and his staff. I should say the staff was particularly good.
Mm.
And again, trained by Walt and trained by Madonna. So they would do the wishes of their spiritual master.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah, that
Very
was
interesting.
Thank you.
fun talking about.
Yeah, it's cool to hear about it.